Welcome to Women of Steel with me, Miriam Grace, the podcast where women who've had their mettle tested help us make important links for ourselves. I talk to remarkable women about their lives and challenges through the lens of my own work as a psychotherapist. We uncover stories which challenge the power of the status quo and validate the voices of marginalised or disadvantaged women. "11 years ago, same-sex marriage was finally legalised and the first gay weddings took place in 2014. Prior to this news, a young gay Sheffield photographer had a dream of creating a space for gay couples where they could feel relaxed and authentic and celebratory about their sexuality and relationships. At this point, she didn't know about a further challenge to come. Nelly Naylor came out as gay, built her colourful, candid, authentic photography business, and then faced a later diagnosis of ADHD. I couldn't wait to interview Nell for Women of Steel. Today, I'm speaking to Nelly Naylor, and Nelly's an award-winning wedding photographer, and she specialises in LGBTQ plus weddings, but she's open to all. She's celebrating 10 years in business this month, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And as well as weddings, Nelly helps business professionals elevate their online presence with colourful and expressive visuals. And she's done this, both those for me, haven't you, Nelly? You've done my wedding and some headshots.
I have indeed, yes. You've been like the best client of Nelly Naylor Photography. How many years ago now was it your wedding? Just remind me.
It was 2019 because it was just before the pandemic, and we were so lucky. We were so lucky.
Yes, that is so true. And that was such, a gorgeous wedding. And I think, am I right in saying maybe you were looking for someone who maybe specialised in doing queer weddings, and you wanted a female photographer to feel like comfortable, and what was the process about you finding your photographer, I guess?
I didn't even know that there would be anybody specialising in LGBT weddings, so I just thought, I need a female, need a woman to do this. So I googled female photographer Sheffield, and then all of a sudden this you came up, and it said it had all this colour, and anyone who knows me will know I just love colour. There's just these fantastic photographs with lots of colour, and it said LGBT plus weddings, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's somebody in Sheffield. So we contacted you, and my wife and I came to meet you, and it was just, we just clicked, and felt really, really great. And you were amazing on the day. And you made lots of friends, didn't you, that day?
Yes, I did. I think it was nice when I kind of photograph these weddings. It's often, especially like LGBTQ plus weddings, like they're just my sorts of people. So like we just instantly gel. And I can't believe, you Googled that, and just not even thinking that anyone would even specialize in that. And I've heard that from quite a few people, because I specialized in this like over 10 years ago, before like the legislation came in for like same-sex couples getting married. And so I've just been doing it for that long. And it's crazy to think that people just didn't realize that there was someone like that, like me, even out there.
Yeah. Well, I think you do feel quite alone, or a lot of the coming out process is about feeling alone and isolation, and then there's the sort of this wonderful experience of realizing there's a community there, and that I came to that much later in life than you did.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, given that you were growing up at a time when you wouldn't have ever expected to be doing gay weddings as a career. What was it like to know that you weren't straight, to grow up in the society you grew up in. And a lot of what we talk about on this podcast is about mental health. Did you find it always easy, or were there some difficulties in that?
Yeah, of course. Great question. I think so. I came out when I came to university,
Mm.
because for me it was like I was moving to a new city. I felt like no one knew me there. It was like I could almost just like, I guess, like a caterpillar to a butterfly, just
Mm.
kind of this new life like emerging. And I think maybe I felt some shame coming out like back home. I felt anxiety, of course. I was anxious about, would my friends still be my friends? Would my family still want to be my family? Um, and like I've made those connections kind of, I guess, identifying as straight and I guess going along with society norms and just following society and following all of my friends. I didn't have any queer friends at all.
Mm.
Um, and so it did feel like a total lonely place because in my mind I knew that I was 100% gay, but then I felt such a massive like anxiety of like wanting to come out. I just felt like I couldn't do it. And there were so many things like holding me back from that. Like I think it was mainly just kind of what everyone else would think because there was no one in my family that was gay. I had no friends that was gay. I guess like teachers at school or people on my sports team weren't coming out. It's something that no one talked about.
Mm.
So like of course like I did feel alone and scared and so nervous about that. But yeah, coming to university, I was like, right, the first thing I did, even when I introduced to like my sort of when we were living together and I lived with like six random strangers, we were just like introducing myself and straight away, like when we were chatting, I think the first night it was like, yeah, I'm Nelly and yeah, I'm gay and
Wow.
it was just like literally straight away, like overnight, I was like, I don't want to start not being who I am to like these new people. I just wanted to start being who I've always wanted to be. And like that was like the main moment for me. But of
Yeah.
course, yeah, there was, of course, an abundance of anxiety before that.
Wow. I mean, that is so brave. And it looks to me, just looking at you now, as if you're reliving some of that emotion, telling that part of the story, imagining yourself at what were you, 18?
18, yeah.
Wow.
Which was definitely young. I mean, this was obviously, the same-sex legislation wasn't out yet. We couldn't get married. Like, it wasn't spoken about in schools. It wasn't really spoken about at university. There wasn't loads of groups like they are now. Even online, on like social media, there wasn't very many groups. I wasn't part of that. I didn't have any allies. I didn't have any people or anything. So, of course, that's changed a lot now. I surround myself a lot with like people from like, our community and everything, whether that's in business or personal. But yeah, the back in the day, even like at university, like there was nobody. But it was nice because I had no bad reaction with it initially to the people who I come out with it. I've experienced like homophobia and that a lot when I was at university going out. I've experienced that a lot. But to the nice close people that I was living with, they were absolutely fine and I'm still friends with them now. So that's nice.
I mean that is nice, but I think that quite a few people say to me inadvertently, oh, but it's easy now, isn't it? It's not an issue, and I say, well, I think it is, in 2024 and certainly in some other countries. But more than that, we're not talking about 2024. We're talking about, when I was growing up, I was a teenager in the late 70s, early 80s. And then when you came to uni, what sort of time was that?
2010.
Yeah, yeah. And so I don't think that generally people understand how recent this more widespread acceptance is, and it isn't 100% by any means.
Of
And
course.
there's this a trauma. So I often say I didn't need therapy about my sexuality. There's nothing wrong with my sexuality. I needed therapy and support about the trauma of coming out. And interestingly, you said, it was easier to almost move city,
Yes.
come out, because I think it is quite a big deal to come out to people who see you and expect you to be one way.
Yes, definitely. And I think yeah, like yeah, to be honest, yeah, it's really taken me back to that time and like that many years ago. I mean, what are we now? That was 10, 20, 14 years ago or something coming out, maybe. Um, but yeah, definitely a scary time. And like you said, mentioned about therapy and things like that. Like I've had therapy like 3 times in my life, and it's actually by that point I have already come out and you're speaking about the trauma. And yeah, for me, I was in like a my first ever, I guess, like queer relationship.
Mm.
Um, it was really bad, it was totally it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, like this like fairy tale kind of
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm finally out and I'm gonna like, finally be myself. And actually like it was awful. Like it was such a messed up like relationship. To the point that I needed therapy like, 2 sessions just over. For like 2 years I needed it, you
yes,
know?
yeah. And I think that that's another thing about the isolation, isn't it? It's that if your sexuality is either a secret, or perhaps you haven't got the community connections, you haven't got that safety net that a lot of straight people have, which is running it by your girlfriends, and they go, oh no, that that doesn't sound right. You haven't got that safety net if it's just you and your partner against the world. So if
Yeah.
you are abusive or toxic or emotionally unstable or whatever, um,
Mhm.
how are you going to know at age 18? Um,
Yeah.
and who's gonna protect and support you if you don't have that community? Mm,
Definitely, I totally agree. I mean, my like first relationship, like you say, was totally emotionally like abusive, and would like I finally come to university and come out and like I'm like I want to be myself, and this is who I've always been. But I finally have the confidence to come out, and then I got into this relationship where she wanted to keep me a secret,
yeah,
you know. And
yeah,
it was like because she was like offloading, I guess like she didn't want to be seen with me. She didn't want to be seen out with me. She didn't officially come out as being gay, So it was like all, I guess, like behind closed doors, really. But I almost thought in my head maybe this is just what like people from our community do, and this is just like the norm. But
yeah.
of course now I'm in like, the best, healthiest, gorgeous relationship, and that is just totally not what happens.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So the isolation can continue for quite a long time, I think. And like I say, it makes life not just more unsafe from the general public or the population, people who might be homophobic, but also from that, people understanding your relationship and the dynamics, which I'm always saying are very, very different between two women. When you don't really get any training in how to do it. I mean, we get way too much training in how to be heterosexual,
mm,
to the point of brainwashing, and then we're just sort of left to figure it out for ourselves. And the thought of you being 18 and going through that is quite upsetting, really, isn't it?
yeah, like you said, there's no roadmap or anything
Mm.
to kind of navigate like coming out. You don't read a book and think this is the best way about going about it or
Yeah,
something, there's no roadmap for anything, whether that is coming out, starting relationships or navigating the world and stuff, that you just kind of, yeah, you make it up as you go along.
yeah. And so that is at the basis of part of how um, you are in the world is you've had to come through that. And I'm sure anybody listening is dying to hear about your happy ending, if you just like to give them that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, gosh, me and Beth have been together 7 years now. So a long time. But yeah, it took me a while, I think, to find the right person for me. I think me and Beth have very similar kind of endings to our last relationship, where before we got together, where it was just like we kind of gave up hope and thought that we'd, never be able to find someone, and it was just we were always going to be in these toxic relationships, and we were never going to find anybody that was healthy, and we both kind of like came from that place. But thankfully we did, and we started off, and I think this is the best advice for like any relationship, as just I always knew when I first saw Beth that she was the one for me, and I wanted to pursue it. But we were friends for months, like nearly a year before we kind of got together, and I think that was just a foundation really for, I guess, the like long healthy relationship that we've got now. That we were just literally best friends, wanting to see one another all the time, always hanging out together, and that was nice. And then it just kind of naturally, we booked a holiday together to go skiing, and just as friends. But then it was on like the trip where it was just us two, like away, that things went from friends to being more like romantic. And then in the end, I asked her to be my girlfriend when we were at the top of the mountain with this gorgeous view, with skiing, and it was snowing, and it was gorgeous and beautiful. And like, yeah, she said yes, and it was just like a natural transition. So from being friends to being in a relationship. But now, we're in that relationship where we like support one another in everything that we're doing, and we have, healthy times apart and together, and we've built a family, we've got fluffy animals, we've got a gorgeous house. Like, it's great. And I think, yeah, but I think you almost have to go through the hard times to realize actually what you've got now is great.
Oh, well, yeah, I hope that perhaps as time goes on, people won't have to go through such hard times. I know that we want to go on and talk a little bit about ADHD, and it seems like now might be a good time to just take a little break. And then when we come back, we'll talk about a different sort of marginalisation and a different sort of difference.
Are you coming out later in life? Are you partnered with someone who is? The Women with Women conference has you covered. Meet like-minded people and hear from authors, therapists and specialists at a beautiful venue in Sheffield. The first Women with Women conference is set for June 2025, and with limited spaces, tickets are available at womenofsteel.co.uk. We'll see you there. This event is not open to men or straight people.
Well, welcome back. Today I'm talking to Nelly Naylor, award-winning photographer, who I first got to know through her doing her LGBTQ plus weddings. She actually does an awful lot of other things that I think we might have to book a second episode to talk a bit more perhaps about your music and some of the headshots and web work that you do for some of your clients. But we've been talking about it feels like just scraping the surface, doesn't it? We've been talking about the impact of sexuality, of being gay, and how that affects mental health. And one of the worst things, I think, is the isolation, because I'll say to clients about any trauma, like if somebody jumped out of a hedge and grabbed your handbag or whatever, that's a trauma. But it's if you are believed, supported, validated, and so on, that you recover from that so much better than if you have to feel shame, it was your fault, keep it a secret, there's something wrong with you, and all of that. So we were talking, that you knew that you were gay, and you knew that it was a challenge. It was difficult for you to be in the world with that and to work that through to your happy ending, or happy middle bit, or whatever. But there was another aspect, and it was something that you didn't know about, in terms of you'd felt different in another way as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about that, Nelly?
Yes, absolutely. So I got diagnosed with ADHD in 2001. And for me, having that diagnosis was just a full validation of why I've been this certain way my whole entire life. Because like you say, I felt different in sexuality, but also felt different in kind of, I guess, mentally. But not like just, how I go and how I navigate the world, and it's just and how I see the world is just like different, and maybe how I interact with people, how it's affected my work, because I've not always been self-employed. It's obviously I've had jobs and stuff before, and getting this ADHD diagnosis, it was kind of a big kind of, well, huge eye-opening moment for me, really, because it was like, oh, that's the reason why I was rubbish in this job, or why that friendship ended, or like maybe why that like relationship didn't work out, or why I kind of feel this like overwhelming sense of emotion sometimes, or why I feel chronically overwhelmed in like certain situations, or even just like mundane day-to-day life can often like be enough for me. So yeah, totally. Like you say, feeling different in that way as well.
And you're mentioning, the impact of ADHD in terms of feeling overwhelmed and emotional, and maybe not being sure why you've lost a friendship, or why you can't seem to, make it work at work. Do you think being self-employed is easier if you've got ADHD, or is it easier for you, or
Yeah, I think I often say I don't think I could ever, even though being self-employed is so stressful and it's so overwhelming, and like there's a million projects going on at once, and probably not all of them are finished. It's just like lots of stuff are happening. But I don't think I could ever hold down like a kind of employed 9 to 5 job, because like that creates, I feel like I'll be holding myself back, like creatively, and I have got like a million one ideas, probably too many, at once. Sometimes like the bucket is just full of like ideas and things to do. So often there is kind of like that yin and yang sometimes with, or maybe it would be good to have a stable 9 to 5 job, because it'll give me a routine. Someone's telling me what to do. I'll feel good when I tick off the tasks and that's done, and I won't have that. I probably sleep a lot better. But at the same time, I do love being self-employed, and I love the creativity that I have with it, and the ideas I can bring them to life. And I know that I'm actually really good at my job, so like I don't want to give that up. But yeah, I'm sure, like, I don't know, I'm sure there's positives and negatives to it all, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah. And I think, because I know you, I think I see a lot of the positives. It's like, and I think when you and I get talking, we start buzzing, don't we? And
Yes.
and I'm looking at your guitars and your banjo. You said you've got a guitar, a bass guitar, and a banjo there, because you're in a band as well. And there's something about I really can resonate with, about you don't want to sort of dumb yourself down and rein yourself in, even though
Yes.
it's overwhelming, having so many creative ideas coming thick and fast. I'd say one after the other, but it might be five after the other.
Definitely. And I think I agree, like saying if I did have like a kind of a normal job, so to speak, or like a 9 to 5, she would just say that I'll almost be kind of restricted. And the way I see it is like I feel like maybe I'll be restricted and put in a box, and like actually I just want to feel free and to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it, and I want to go with whatever idea is taking me that way, or so yeah, there is that feeling of just, yeah, creativity, free flowing. And I guess with the ADHD, I have like really big moments of like hyper focus sometimes. So I can just like, which is great when I'm doing, say, like editing or something like that, which takes a long time. Often the time will just fly by, and I'm just like, oh God, 5 hours have flown by and I didn't even realize.
Yeah, yeah, but 10 years, Nelly, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Would you have ever thought, you know, we've talking about your sexuality, would you have ever thought that not only would you have come out, but you'd be so public about it that, it would almost be your trademark?
Absolutely. And I think there is that line of me coming out and being open with my sexuality has like literally come into my business and my livelihood and like how I make a living, and actually being sort of like a pioneer in that world. And really, because it's almost, I always say, like it's kind of like I am passionate now about people coming out and being themselves. And like, yeah, that has just come over into my business, where I wanted to create a space for people who I wanted them to feel comfortable, like appreciated, understood, relaxed. And so then that's then shows in the final product that you get these amazing, colourful, gorgeous, candid photos where it's totally authentic and people are just totally themselves. Because I think some photographers, especially like when I was starting the business, I used to like shadow different photographers, and that they would pose every couple exactly the same. The photos would be just like dark and edited, or black and white and sepia tones. And when I was at these wedding fairs, I was like, there's just no one creating a space that like I wanted to be in myself. So I thought, well, I'm going to make it happen. So totally, there's a massive crossover between like, yeah, me coming out and being myself, it then going over into my business, and it now being like successful and 10 years on.
Yes,
Crazy.
authentic, candid, and colourful applies to you as well as to your photography.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So what about the we've spoken a bit about it was a relief to come out, but it was hard and there was a lot of angst before that. What would you say to somebody who perhaps is thinking about coming out about their ADHD, and having that just, I suppose, life-changing diagnosis and so on. I'm just wondering about, I suppose, the worst times for you, and the hope that you might be able to offer people who might be in a dark place with the ADHD, and whether there's anything you can say.
Yes, I think that's a good point to make. It's almost like two separate coming outs. It's like you're coming out with your sexuality, but then also, oh, I am neurotypical as well. But actually, of course, it was such a struggle. I've been in like lots of dark places with my undiagnosed like ADHD, and not realizing like how it was affecting my day-to-day life, like, or constantly for years. And for anyone who like thinks they do have it, I think people that do think they have it, I think they probably do. I know that waiting lists are incredibly long. It's very difficult. I know you can go privately, you can go through Right to Choose as well, through like the NHS. It's about what, I guess, having that diagnosis like means to you, and like getting that official diagnosis, what will that mean to yourself? Whether you're wanting to get medication, whether you're wanting to get help through maybe access to work to help you run your business and stuff and get some help, or whether it's just kind of getting that validation, and actually you can finally say to people like, yeah, this is the reason why I do X, Y, and Z, or this is the reason why I maybe acted up that time, or like why this didn't work out, or maybe why at midday I completely cut off and I have to shut off because I'm just too overwhelmed with everything. I just need some space by myself. And I think it's been talked about so much more, which is really great, because I think when I got my diagnosis, like the only, I know it's awful to say, but I mean, the only people I thought had ADHD was like naughty boys at school and stuff like that. Whereas, and that's kind of what society got told, that was the case. But actually, there's, probably millions around the world, women later in life getting diagnosed because they've hit crisis point and they're just struggling with kind of coping in life. That actually it presents different in women than it does young boys. And it's yeah, it's a full life-changing moment, but there's also like support groups as well. I'm sure every city has like local support groups as well. Like I'm part of one in Sheffield, which is great. People, some people do have an official diagnosis, some people don't, but it doesn't matter. There's no judgment there or anything. It's just like we're all people who are just trying to support one another. And I've now got like friendship groups out of that will speak on WhatsApp, we'll speak with one another, and if we're struggling they can bring you up, and it's just nice to, again, I guess it's like coming out, but like surround yourself with like the right people that are going to pick you up when you're feeling down.
Absolutely. I think as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking it's community again, isn't it? It's acceptance. And again, is ADHD a problem, or is it the way that the world is constructed, that thwarts people with ADHD? And again, sexuality. For me, diverse sexuality is not a problem. It's the way we're treated, and the way it's difficult to navigate the world. And so one of the answers I think we're saying is community. And to get that community, you do have to come out at least a little bit,
yes,
to find like-minded people. And the upside, I'm not trying to make it better, but the upside is that your full exuberant self. And someone asked me the other day, they said, what is the best thing about having come out? And I said, it's trusting myself. It's trusting that I'm okay. I trust myself to make my decisions and to be okay. And at that point, I was actually thinking about some rather wild, bright colours that I'd chosen to decorate with. And that sort of exuberant, expressive part of myself. And I think that life is full of times when we feel we don't belong. And I think that's probably one of the most painful things. But sometimes by saying I don't belong, like I don't belong to the straight life, or I don't belong to sepia and black and white, that color, that sort of thing, or I have ADHD. Sometimes by saying that, you actually get more support.
Oh, definitely. I think since my diagnosis and being able to say, oh, I've got this, like the support from my partner, my family, my friends, like loved ones, is just like more than ever, And I know that like if I'm in crisis mode or something's happened, or I'm just, my brain's just full, I'm struggling to like cope with things, because I know that, having the diagnosis, yeah, of course there's good things about being creative and things like that, but also like it is very difficult to live with on like a day-to-day basis. But having that support and having that diagnosis is just really helpful, not just for me, but for like everybody around, who actually they know how to help me, and they can almost, especially like my partner and stuff, like she'll almost spot things before they even happen, or like says, like don't do that because that'll make you stressed, or you need to kind of relax and do this before you do this, or take a break, I think you need a break. And it's like that's really good, but before like she didn't really like do that, but now like she knows that I could get burnt out quickly in a day, and that I need to like take these rests and stuff, and she'll be like advising me to take rests, have naps, have meditation, like eat well, go out for a walk, lay your head, so it's great to have that.
And that is a really lovely part of good communication in good healthy relationships. And I, I'm a bit biased, but I personally think you do have a better chance of that if your partner's a woman, but there you go. Now I would be encouraging anybody who's listening to just go to your website, even if they're not getting married and they don't need headshots, just to enjoy and bask and bathe in the absolute gorgeousness and creativity of Nelly Naylor photography, and it'll be in the show notes as well. But I think because it is your 10th year that you're really celebrating that. You've got various different things that people could consider signing up for with you. Nelly, do you want to say a bit about that?
So I guess celebrating the 10 years in business, I do have like a 10% offer on all of my like services at the minute. Celebrating 10, 10, 10. So it's a 10 years of the legislation coming in, the 10 years of running my business, and then the 10% off. So that's just like a little offer there just for the summertime. And yeah, obviously I do focus as well as weddings. I specialise in business branding portraits. So I help businesses kind of really elevate their online platforms such as websites and social media. And instead of like having that boring passport photo, I'm all about capturing and learning about the individual's personality and their business and capturing the best out of that with my camera. So it's not just like photographing just your standard headshot, it's actually photographing you in your business, matching your colours to your branding, so it's all matches like all across the board. And just really getting that life and like energy like into the photos, so that like when you're selling yourself as a business owner, like the first thing that people will see is like these images which are lively and colourful and really capturing your personality. And at the same time, I also build websites. So I do a fantastic package where I can take your photos, build your website, put it together, and give you the set you off on the best path, really.
Yeah. And you work with straight people, and you do family portraits, and I've seen you do photo shoots all over the country, don't you? Go down to London sometimes.
Yes.
People don't need to be based in Sheffield, they don't need to be gay.
Literally open to all. Like you say, family photo shoots, pets, for cover events, but if all sorts of stuff really. But yeah, it is all on the website and all of my social media. You can find out a little bit more about me. There's lots of videos of my dogs and cats and stuff on there. So it's a bit about my business, but also my fun, colourful life as well.
Yeah, my fun, colourful life. Now, we were looking for a title for today's episode.
There it could be.
You might have just come up with it. Thank you so much for joining us, Nelly. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about your experiences of coming out and coming out again with ADHD. And I hope that people will see that it's a difference. It's just not, it's not wrong. It's a difference. And that if we can be inclusive and accept people, that turns something from being a challenge, from being a trauma into just being a challenge to learn new ways of connecting and communicating. So let's hope for more changes going forward. And wish you all the success for the next 10 years, Nelly.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you for the chat. It's been great.
Nelly's story underlines for me the importance of community and connection, most particularly when we feel different or marginalised. In order to find that support, Nelly first of all had to have the information. We hope that Nelly's story reaches listeners who can realise they're not the only person going through what they're experiencing. As Alice Walker said, stories differ from advice in that once you get them, they become a fabric of your whole soul. That's why they heal you. Thank you for listening to Women of Steel, created and hosted by me, Miriam Grace, psychotherapist at Blue Skies. If you'd like to know more about my work as a therapist and writer, you can follow me on social media. Please take a look at the show notes for information and contact details. And in the meantime, be kind to yourself.